Good evening, everybody. Tamuchin is still on his vacation time, so you're stuck with me, the fat human potato, with the very bad skin, or just a potato, as I think it should be called. We're here with Alan and with Shay and Jake, who I haven't seen since last season anyway. It's good to see everybody. How are we all doing?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Week 2 now, we're just done. You know, you can tell who's going to win and lose at this point or something. I don't know. As I think I said last week, in the old days, you didn't see the league table till game 10 in the newspapers. I think it was because they were saving the ink, because those were the days of austerity in the 1950s. We can see some performances, we can see some bad ones, we can see some good ones, we can see some that are questionable, United, which we will all talk about in due course. And of course, the controversial one for last week, Arsenal and Villa. That was the grudge match of the week. We will discuss that later. But we got to catch up with everybody last time. So, Jake, how have you been over the summer?
Pretty good. Bought a house, and that was pretty much
congratulations.
Took up my entire summer. So
yes, I know the feeling. It's a big move. It's a big headache as well. Yep. And then if your house hopefully is nothing like mine, and then you find that the guy you bought it from had the worst DIY skills since Tim Allen. And you just spend the rest of your life fixing everything. Anand says, good evening, Anand. And we're here to have some fun and discussions and some intellectualism, and then me. So we'll get cracking on this. We have the results from the last week. Let's have a look at them. Earmarked 3 games. Brighton United, Villa Arsenal. That's the main one we'll talk about. And then, of course, because we have Jake back, Spurs against Everton, of course, Spurs being every Liverpool fan's second team last weekend. That was a fantastic performance. They managed to muddle through the EFL Cup tonight, but nobody cares. Not even the Everton fans. But let us go first, because I just like to laugh at them so much. Brighton against Man United. We spoke last week, Alan, about how the Fulham game exposed a lot of bad things about Manchester United, i.e. the lack of any sort of cohesion or game plan or tactics. And we all, lauded our individual managers as even Arne Slot. You can see what he's trying to do. It's 2 years in? Is it 2 years now of Eric Ten Hag? 2.5, whatever it is. I have no idea what they're trying to do. Brighton deserved that, I think, on the balance of play. Fulham should have got something out of their game. It's probably the eternal philosopher's question, Alan. Are United as crap as they really look?
They are crap. They are as crap as they look. And I tune into the highlights for that, and it's just Brighton seemed dominant. United, again, that whatever they want to say about that last minute, goal. I know Ten Hag is going to talk about that for the next year, just like he talked about the offside, quote unquote, that he keeps on claiming about Arsenal last year. He's probably going to mention the same thing about this, but there's no identity to that team. It's just a bunch of, Ten Hag is at the wheel for sure. It's just a bunch of a poorly put together Ajax team that Ten Hag has been trying to put together since he's been there. And he thinks that's going to build some identity when these players have either moved on from his coaching philosophy because they've already been away from him for such a long time, or they're not clicking. I mean, I think, bringing up Timber again, like I did last week, he realized the writing on the wall and decided to join Arsenal instead.
Shay, we've got the very, very important announcement, I'm sure, for all of us old fogies like me, that Oasis are reuniting. And in the style of, one tragic Manchester institution to another one, it's a bit of a blunder wall there at the back for United. They're a team that look like they're being managed by an under-8s coach, except an under-8s coach probably has a plan.
Yeah, for sure. This is the second week that, I said it last week on the show. I was like, the fact that he's playing Bruno Fernandes as a striker when you have Marcus Rashford, he hasn't played it well either. But playing him on the wing and playing a midfielder up there, it's comical, and I feel like he's ran out of options. And he's, how Dallin said, he's just putting together a ragtag group of team right now. A little what's funny, I think this is like the first time in video game history that Man United is not rated a 5-star team. So it's kind of hilarious that even the video game isn't giving him any respect. So it's a bad time for United. With all that money, they just don't know what to do with it. So, and it's funny to see their old player, score against them, Denny Welbeck. So
and not even make any pretense to be subtle or humble about it at all.
Yep.
One of our own.
Yeah. Jake, reputation does still seem to precede, at least in the media's eyes, some clubs. United being up with a shout of challenging for the top 4 before a ball was even kicked. But as a Spurs fan, you guys are doing so phenomenally well under Angie, big Angie, my spiritual animal. He's big like me, and he was at Celtic. But you would imagine that United were looking for that challenger for that top 4 place. But to see their performances, Spurs, Villa, Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and maybe Chelsea if they get it together, although they flatter to deceive as well with their 507 players, United are not really in the equation if things go the way they're going, are they?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, they were only considered at the beginning of the season on name recognition alone, and that's just you can't decide top 4 that way. I mean, we saw it with Villa and Newcastle the last 2 seasons. I think there's way too many better teams challenging for top 4, and United just don't have it figured out. I don't think they're going to have it figured out in time to even make any sort of outside shot.
Let me ask you this, Jake, because I know I always like to ask this about Big Ange. United went for the fashionable coach at Ajax that was making, all those inroads in Dutch football and, doing reasonably well in Europe and had that air of the next big thing on continental coaching levels. Spurs went for the guy from Celtic. Not usually and typically the pool you would dip from for an inspirational manager to turn your fortunes around. But that seemed to be the better move, all in all, because Spurs look great. They look like there's a plan. There's flaws in it, as there always will be in Angie Ball.
Yeah.
But when it works, it's phenomenal. Are you glad that Spurs didn't do the typical classic Spurs thing of going for the name manager that was making all the waves and went for the fat guy who said mate a lot to everybody?
Absolutely. I mean, so far so good in my opinion. And, it just boiled down to finding a manager that wanted to be there. The previous 2.5, Nuno being the half, they kind of treated the job like it's lucky to have me. Conte and Mourinho, big name people. But, Ange, it's a step up. He hasn't coached in one of the big 5 leagues, and he says the right things and a likable person. And it's been since Pochettino that we've had that. And I'm ride or die at this point for Big Ange.
Just before I go on to Shay, tell me this now, and you can be honest. You're among friends here. Since Big Ange rocked up to Spurs and did his magic, have you been tempted to try Vegemite?
No, I have not.
It's disgusting.
Not in the slightest.
I've tried it. It's horrible. Shay, as a Villa fan, the same kind of idea for you guys. You're doing so well. You're putting a foothold in that chase for the top 4 every season. Definitely should be around the top 6 come the last 10 games, which is where you kind of want to be outside of somebody running away with it like City for the league title. It's a delightful thing to see United do so badly. But again, you guys went for the unfashionable manager. Is there a lesson for other clubs, big clubs especially, that you don't have to get the guy with the name? You don't have to bring Mourinho back from the dead, or Rafa Benitez, a sainted man as he is, back from the dead. There are managers out there who may have failed once or twice somewhere else, but they've got the ideas and they've got the passion and they just need the chance.
Yep. I agree with that because, like you said, I mean, sometimes it works with a big name, but I feel like we've said before, and I've had this conversation with other people, just United, they just have so much excess baggage of these players that they cannot get rid of, and I feel like that has hurt them from day one. And then when they do buy somebody, they pay too much, get them on high wages, can't do anything with it. I always say, when Jose said it. He said his greatest accomplishment was finishing second with United. That tells you something. It's a man that won it with Porto, coach at Real Madrid, has won big things, and he said that was his greatest accomplishment. That tells you how much of a cluster that job and franchise, in American terms, is. Like, the entire club is just crazy. I don't know what they can do to fix it. Maybe they just full sell it. The fact that they sold Scott Tominary today was actually mind-boggling to me. How they get rid of a player that was actually decent for them, and from the club, and we're out. So something tells me they'll probably spend another $50 million on a washed-up Casemiro type player. So it's a never-ending cycle. We're all here for it, though. We'll spend the money.
Alan, United are Liverpool's traditional rivals, maybe even more than Everton, going back decades and decades and decades. But of course, the biggest rivalry in the 2000s was Arsenal United. It was a phenomenal rivalry. Two great managers. You can't, as much as we can, despise Ferguson's influence on the game and his attitude to things, he was a phenomenal coach. Arsene Wenger, phenomenal coach. But it's a delightful thing, isn't it, to see them not just it's not even just poor performance, it's bad planning and even worse choices. They're kind of like the college kid who had their first beer and decides to forgo the protection before they get their first sex as well. Or something, I don't know. I'm a bit drunk over here.
Yeah, it is. No, I mean with United and Arsenal in the past, they took a chance on two coaches there with Arsene Wenger and Ferguson as well. Ferguson, I think he came from the Scottish leagues before that, and then he also was almost fired, but he was able to get it together. After Arsene Wenger came from Monaco and then went to Japan, was successful in Japan, but also the media really gave Arsenal a lot of shit for hiring a French manager. But both those choices took a lot of gall to do it. Back in the day. I mean, same can be said with Arteta. Arteta was just Pep's number 2 guy. Everyone was saying bad things about that move, but United went to whoever they thought was the next big thing, and it hasn't worked out. Like you said, Spurs have gone for Ange. Villa have also gone with Emery, who has failed in the Premier League before. But both these managers are have winning mentalities, and they want to win. I mean, as much as I don't want to praise Spurs at all, but they got it right with Ange, and I hope he does well, but not too well. But yeah, but with United, it's not. Yeah, it's just picking and choosing whoever thinks it works out, and it doesn't work out. They get Ollie, they get Mourinho, they get the guy between Ollie and Ten Hag. I forget his name.
Ralph?
Yeah, something like that. Ragnick or something like that. Yeah, and it's just failure after failure after failure since Ferguson.
In terms of Jake, in terms of that manager thing, do you think that in the end, United fans will never want to admit that, but United fans would swap what you have for what they have?
I think they would. I think a lot of the fan base has kind of lost faith in the ETH direction. I don't know. I would imagine so. I don't converse with too many United fans, thankfully. But
because they all live in London.
But I'd imagine that they see what we're doing, and the football is more exciting. And I mean, who wouldn't?
Good evening to Ryan.
The one thing that I think really hurt them too, besides that, is when Ferguson did retire, he literally told them, "Give David Moyes a chance," and that lasted 3 months, and then they were all on him, and look what's happened. So I feel like they disrespected the one legend, they put a curse on him, and it's just they've been in shambles ever since.
It was like the best thing you ever did for football.
Yep, that worked out. Thanks, David.
Get Gollum. So let's move on to just where we have Jake. Let's move on to Spurs and Everton, because we're going to save the fireworks for the next game, boys. The next conversation. That's the fireworks shot. But number one, obviously, all joking aside about Liverpool fans wanting Everton to lose, there's a thing to be said, I believe, there's a thing to be said about being flat track bullies for a large part of the season. That if you come up against a weak team, you have to put that weak team to the sword. And if you cannot do that, your ambitions to be trophy winners or to be high up in the league are probably going to fall apart. And the proof is in the pudding. Let's say just famously for us, the almost win of 13-14 for Liverpool under Rodgers. We could beat City 3-2 at Anfield, but we couldn't beat Crystal Palace under Neil Warnock. No, was it Neil Warnock? It was Neil Warnock, yeah. You have to win those games. If Spurs have any ambition to be even challenging for the top two spots, we don't know how it's all going to shake out yet. That's a game you have to be winning and winning well, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think any game against bottom half opposition at home, you should be in full control, and you should not be sweating it out at all. Obviously we dropped points first match week at Leicester, and that's not the signs of a challenge or a title challenger. So still got to figure out the away form, I think, but at home against a weaker side, we should be steamrolling that opposition. That's just how it goes. If you're wanting to go for first or second, whatever our aspirations are, hopefully first. That'd be nice. But yeah, I agree. I think you got to be winning those games, and you mark those on the calendar. Like, we can't lose focus. It's not the biggest matchup. They lost at home to Brighton the previous week 3-0. Like, you are the heavy favorites, but you have to go in. You have to send a message, put it away by halftime, and then move on.
Alan, if you're an Everton fan, and I'm so sorry for insulting you with that analogy, even a little bit in my imagination, but if you are, is it too soon in the season to worry? I don't think it is. They look dreadful, don't they?
Yeah, they look bad. I would be worried. They're going to open a new stadium in the Championship, or maybe even in League One. So, because they look that bad, it's embarrassing. You don't start the season like this if you expect to survive, and unless they get unless they do something drastic and change the manager, I don't see anything out of this. Sean Dyche is still Sean Dyche. He's a douchebag.
Shay, the thing about it is, for me, is that there was a time when Sean Dyche would be a Villa manager, that he would be the caliber of manager you were going for, of head coach, whatever way you want to call it. And thankfully for you guys, you're beyond that. It's a whole new ball game for you guys. But I don't believe that tactics go out of fashion or that tactics get found out. You'll always find a variation, even if the most basic game plan. But you get the impression that Everton players are just bored of Sean Dyche now. They're just bored of having to smack the ball down the field at every possession. They're just bored of having to run back to the box and sit in the 6 yard and hope somebody doesn't score against them. I mean, I like Sean Dyche as a character, but it must be hell to play for him.
Definitely. I think, like how you said, he's played the same formation for years. He did it at Burnley. He got away with it at Burnley because he also didn't have the talent. And it worked out because, how Jake and Alan said, you have these teams, like, they're going to give it your all. If you don't go into prepared for it, you're not going to, always come out on top. But for Everton, I feel like they have good enough talent to do better than that they are. Because there's some good players on that team. But it's Sean Dyche. We know that he's going to sit back all time and long ball it. And just seeing how Jordan Pickford, had a pretty good cup run in Euros and just being absolute dog crap when he's coming back to the league is kind of shocking. And how we were just saying, they're already 7 goals behind in goal difference, and it's the second match of the season. So it may be pretty bad. The floodgates may have already opened way too early, and I don't see Everton coming back from this.
Let's look at the other scores before we get to the big match of the week. City doing what City should do against Ipswich at home. Fulham and Leicester, we had that prediction last week that Fulham would win, but I think it was a clean sheet was the prediction for that one. West Ham beating Palace away. I think the new manager for Palace, that seems fairly standard. Southampton Forest just looks like a mid-table game in the middle of March, but just happened in August. Bournemouth won, Newcastle won. Not a happy return for Eddie Howe. We can talk about that one a bit. Wolves and Chelsea 6-2. And then Liverpool-Brentford, we've talked to death about. We don't need to go over that one again. But let's go with Wolves and Chelsea first, and then the Bournemouth and Newcastle. And Wolves and Chelsea, Jake, it's there's 700 players. They've probably bought 200 now since I last made that statement before the start of the show.
Ivan Toney now.
You'll check on BBC Football.
9 goalkeepers. They just
but there's a lot of problems there on paper. Picking a team out of that amount of players is just ridiculous. Maresca is a new manager. He's never managed at this level before. We've just talked about coaches coming from places that you don't expect success. Is it going to be one of those up and down seasons for Chelsea? Because I think they had a few similar type results under Potter as well at the start before the wheels fell off. Is that just a false dawn because of who they were playing? Or is that an indication of what Chelsea can do under Maresca?
I think it's going to be a little up and down, not quite the roller coaster ride we had last 2 seasons, I should say. I think the lows are not going to be quite as low, and the peaks will be kind of like this game, a lot higher than last season's peaks were. There's obviously a lot of downside to having so many players in your squad, but one of the upsides is the competition. You got to go out there, and every game, you're playing for your spot because there's 2, 3, 4, 5 players in your position that could take your spot. So I think maybe Maresca's figured out the formula. I mean, obviously Todd Bowley is going to go out and keep buying players, as we've seen, whether Maresca likes it or not. So maybe he's kind of figured out a way to, not pit them against each other in the squad, but competition builds great results. So hopefully, if you're a Chelsea supporter, hopefully that's the way it's going, and that they continue to have these results and less stumbles than the last 2 seasons.
Alan, is it possible that you just throw his name into a bucket and then whoever gets from 1 to 11, that's where they play? That's who plays, and that's where they play.
I mean, it's possible.
Sterling, your goalkeeper this week. Well, here's what I want to talk to you about, because I saw this today, possibly on the BBC. They do have to manage that squad. As correct as Jake is about competition, there's such a thing as a saturation point. And one of the rumors was Sterling to Arsenal, I think, or was it Sterling to United?
Now it's United.
Yeah. Is that where they're going to be going? Are they going to be looking at those older players and then trying to offload them to anybody who'll take them? Or are those players going to dig their heels in and go, you know what, I'm going to make your life a misery now, because last year or the year before I was a guaranteed starter, and now I don't have to do anything because you're paying me all the good money.
Yeah. No, I can see that as well. I mean, we've seen it with players over time that they'll get these huge contracts and they'll take advantage of it, and they won't do anything to leave, or they'll sit with the contracts they've been given. We saw it with Ozil. Aubameyang was someone like that until Arteta showed him what's up, and it's just like with Chelsea, with Sterling, it's gonna be a similar fashion until this transfer window closes. If he's not sold, he's gonna stay there. He's got that big money contract. He's gonna stay. He's not gonna move in winter. He's gonna make him pay for the fact that he's not playing. And honestly, Sterling's he's 29. He's not old. There's still a decent player there. So,
and he looks 10.
Yeah, and he looks 10.
Shay, as a Villa fan, and Wolves being one of those regional derbies for you guys, were you like me? Were you just enjoying the fact that they were getting 7 bells of crap walloped out of them in that game at home?
That was a good one, especially when Nani, forgot to switch burner accounts and talked absolute crap. Faked apologize, scores a hat trick, and then talks crap again. It was just glorious. You like to see top-notch banter. But like how Alan was saying with the Raheem Sterling thing, I watched a little bit of the highlights. Mudryk may be one of the worst players I've ever seen play.
We didn't sign him.
Guy freaking sucks. They got absolutely bamboozled by whoever he came from in whatever club.
Shakhtar.
But like the fact that they are banishing Raheem Sterling, who's a proven player, international, can actually score, and they're letting Mudryk just run around do nothing is crazy. And then how like I saw a tweet today, like how Alan just said too, they're maybe going after Tony. Like how are they still able to buy players? Is what I want to know. Like we got in trouble and got fleeced for Douglas Luiz. We literally sent both the players we got on loan. I was like, we got screwed. And Chelsea's over here, 9 goalkeepers, about to buy another striker. Like, just it's absurd. So, and how you said now it comes down to man management. What I think you can only have 22 senior players.
Yeah.
Which I know a lot of these guys are like that under that age. So like I don't know how they're going to navigate this. They're going to somehow find a loophole, and then one of the smaller teams is going to take advantage of this, and it'll be changed within a couple months. But
yeah, they're just loaning them all out to Millwall.
Yeah, they're just going to start loaning. What was the team when Roman Batiste? I'm surprised I haven't gone on loan to Batiste yet. I guess that relationship broke down. So,
Jake, I'm gonna only ask you about the Bournemouth Newcastle game because I'm getting the gum shields ready and the fist wrap and the gloves ready for these two boys when we talk about Arsenal Villa. So Bournemouth Newcastle. I mean, on the Thursday pod, we're just not convinced that Eddie Howe is going to be the future of Newcastle. There, it just feels like they need a bigger manager. He's had a bit of time to prove himself, and it just doesn't look like he has that extra bit, that kind of the thing that Klopp has, the thing that big Ange. In fact, personality is probably the thing I'm thinking of. He just doesn't have a personality that makes you go, yeah, we're going to win stuff with this guy. Do you think there's going to be a point where Eddie Howe, the Eddie Howe project is going to end, and he will end up back at Bournemouth?
Full circle. I don't know. I think he's the right type of manager for a lower level team to kind of bring them to upper mid table. But I think once they're up there in Champions League and whatnot, you're right. He just doesn't have the personality. He's not inspiring enough, at least what we can see from the outside. And I think it might be a little bit too much for him. Obviously, Spurs play Newcastle next, so I hope that that form continues. But yeah, I think we do potentially see him at a mid-table or relegation level team in the next few seasons if it keeps going this direction with Newcastle, which obviously it's early. We can't be too dramatic about it, but I do think Bournemouth should have won that game. I think it's a Joelinton red card and a bad VAR goal that was chalked off for Bournemouth.
We're into that podcast, so we can be as melodramatic as we want, Jake. Don't live your truth. Live your truth, my friend.
I think Newcastle are going down.
Really nice.
And Bournemouth for the league, right?
Yeah.
And so let's get to the meaty Rocky 3. What was his face? Rocky against.
Ivan Drago, Apollo 3.
No, Drago's 4.
Mr. T?
Mr. T, but he had a different name. It's going to kill me.
Clubber Lang.
Yeah, Clubber Lang. Thank you so much. Yeah, the Clubber Lang versus
it's my Rocky.
Rocky. Because we talked last week about the games last year, about Villa having the hoodoo over Arsenal. But we'll start with Alan, because that must have been a pleasing game for you.
It was very nice to watch. Honestly, though, it was a really good match overall. I talked to a couple of Villa fans before the match. They felt confident. After the match, they were like the best team won. But honestly, Villa had their chances. Unfortunately, they didn't take them. Ollie Watkins found himself scoring in almost 2 good opportunities. Raya just decided to be God and won, and I don't know. He remembered that he was an Arsenal fan as a kid in the first opportunity he got. Otherwise, he buries that. It's like Son should have buried last year's goal, but that's neither here nor there.
Cheap shot, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I know. But no, it was a fun match, and I'm glad that we won.
Shay, from my watching of it, it seemed like at least the first half it was quite an even game. And just the second half, it didn't. I don't think it fell apart for Villa, but there was just another gear for Arsenal. But is it a different game if Ollie Watkins scores that goal? Because that I could fall over that ball and put it in the net.
Yeah, I agree. I just think he still hasn't gotten up to speed after the Euros, which is kind of shocking. I'm like, look, you didn't play any preseason, but you played in a tournament. So he's off it a little bit, but like again said, hey, he is a good player. They say he'll get back onto it. And he struggled, in the beginning of the season last year. Like he didn't score anything until like the fifth or sixth game, and then he went on a tear. But like you said, you got to bear those. If you want to be the England number one striker, like that's where you got to make that switch. I still think he'll be fine. One of the positives was I think Morgan Rogers, we absolutely fleeced whoever we bought. I forgot, Nottingham Forest or Middlesbrough. Like they only paid $8 million for that kid. He is going to be a baller. Like just the fact that he was able to keep the ball and dribble through that really good midfield of Arsenal was just shocking to me. Just to say, like, hey, we finally may have a replacement for that Maverick style that Jack used to do for Villa. So it's early, hey, that's going to happen. You're playing the bigger teams, and the fact that we're able to compete is nice. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll get them back on the next one. They're going to go 1-for-1 this year. We'll let you get it through.
Here's the thing, though, Shay. There's some games where you lose and you've put a good performance in for a large part, and then you're disheartened after it. We kind of, again, not to hark back to, but we kind of had that little bit at the year like 2014-15 with Rodgers. We play well for a little bit, and then it fall apart, and then the whole thing fell apart. But that's not the case with Villa, is it? Emery really has your players on top mental level. Like this will just get shaken off for next weekend, won't it?
Yeah, that's what I think. Like, I think they know. Like I said, it's still a newer squad coming in. So once they get up to speed, I think they're gonna get back to what he wants to play. That's where the leaders just have to step up with McGinn and Ollie just getting out of this funk, and he'll be fine. So I'm sure this weekend when we play Leicester, they'll hopefully turn it around. And if not, like I said, still early. We got plenty of time, but hey, better tighten up and let's not have a complete disaster class. Like, I don't want to do like what Newcastle did to get all that high and then just kind of fall off. So it's going to be a long season with the extra cup matches too. So,
Alan, for Arsenal, markers laid down this early in the season are only markers, but Arsenal are they're not dropping off from last year right now. They're serious. This is a proper progression under Arteta.
Yeah, this is. I think over the years we've seen the mentality of this squad grow. It's a squad that's also been together for most parts since 2021. So I with a few additions here and there, but honestly, like I could also see like them like walking scoring that goal and then Arsenal just immediately bring on that extra gear. I wasn't too worried if they did score first. I think there's a new mentality here, and I think there's from the last 2 years, the title challenges. Maybe these were kids, these last couple years, but I see a bunch of killers now. So there's that.
Jake, final words to you. I'm fairly skeptical in life. I like logic. I like things that can be proven to me, and evidence-based stuff. Clearly, Arsenal's success means that voodoo doesn't work because none of the dolls you have done anything for injuries for Arsenal, have they?
Not yet, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to keep trying. And we've got them in 2 match weeks, so I'm going to go extra hard on the voodoo dolls. But no, I think they look good. Obviously, like was mentioned, totally different game if Watkins gets one or both of those chances, converts either of them. But yeah, I think. It's going to be really tough for City to hold off Arsenal this season, and that's coming for me. So
it's bloody annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So let's have a look at the games ahead this week. We'll focus on the ones for the boys that are here. The big one, I think it's not. There's no argument. The big one is obviously United Liverpool on Sunday. So we'll just get your quick opinions on how you think that one will go, and then we'll talk about your individual games. And obviously, Newcastle Spurs probably the next big game of the weekend in terms of exposure and media, etc. But we'll start with Alan. What do you think? United Liverpool, as much as the mockery has gone on about United, have you seen enough of Liverpool over the 2 games to say that there isn't a drop off from Klopp? It's a different style, but there's something about it that United should fear? Or do you think it's one of those things where it doesn't matter how Liverpool are doing and it doesn't matter how United are doing, it's a big game and all that kind of form goes out the window?
Yeah, it's a rivalry match, so form usually goes out the window. usually. I think I don't think I can say that for this matchup, considering how bad United are and just how they don't have any identity going in to this season at all. You would like to see that, maybe they show up, especially some of the veterans on this team, but I just don't see it. I think Liverpool is going to run away with it 3-0, even at Old Trafford. So, again, I think this is a big test for Arne Slot as well. Let's see how he does against United. This as much as we like to talk about United being poor, there's a lot of good players there that want to prove something, especially to the media and to their fans and to the country itself. So.
Jake, and it'd be the same question to Shay as well. I don't know many Liverpool fans who seriously think we're going to compete for the league in Arne Slot's first season, and even less so as we're getting to the end of the transfer market with no players signed for this season, apart from the goalkeeper we signed for 2025. Well done, lads, at the transfer committee. But is this a game where, if Liverpool do perform well, you're kind of looking over your shoulder and going, okay, top four has got a little bit more difficult this year?
Sure. I always think Liverpool are going to be contenders. I think they still have the squad for it, and it looks like they're kind of buying into the system. So, yeah, I think we do see a pretty consistent performance this upcoming weekend. I think maybe it takes the second half for them to get the goals, but I think they're going to win 2-0 for the third game in a row.
Shay, same thing to you. It looks like 1 and 2 right now on paper and based on developments from last season. It's going to be Arsenal. City. They're more along in their development. City being City, of course. But they don't need development. They have all that money and no charges against them, so they're free to do whatever the hell they want. But the third, fourth, and fifth spots, I would have went with Villa, Liverpool, Spurs, maybe Newcastle, but I wouldn't be convinced about that now. But would you have been in the school of supporters, rival supporters, who were hoping that the manager after Klopp was going to see a dramatic shortfall in performance as the systems changed over?
I mean, not like too much of a drop because, like I said, the players are all still the same, and I feel like he had an easier path of like, hey, we got a team that's been together, like Colin said, like with Arsenal, the team's been together for a long time. You didn't bring anybody new in to really change anything or buy into the system. The team's there, so I feel like that also helps the coach out. Like, hey, this is how we know how to play. You can implement what you want, but we're still going to play like how Klopp's taught us, and then we will eventually switch to your style. And you have one of the best Premier League players of all time. Like, we could say what we want, but Mohamed Salah is probably one of the best that we have ever seen play, and he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. People were kind of writing him off last year. He's hit the ground running. I think this match, same way. If they do win it, like you said, as a Liverpool fan, you're like, okay, well, maybe we will finish in this top four for sure. But it's still early, and like you said, just without the only thing that worries me, like, just as a fan and just for you, like, just not buying any players. Like, do you have the depth to continue it? Which they have the experience to do it. But just to go in a season without buying anybody is really crazy, especially in today's day and age when people are just buying players for like left and right. I think I'll go with, like Alan said, maybe a 2-0, and Jake said 2-0. Probably in the second half. I think the first half, United is going to try. They can't lose 3 in a row, or drop that many points. So they'll probably come out swinging, and then I think Liverpool's just experience overall is gonna end up with the win.
I'm kind of hoping we play our kids because that's who beat them in the preseason. It was fun. So let's look at Jake. Let's look at Newcastle Spurs. It's away. We just mocked Newcastle, so hopefully no karma has spread over towards you. But is this a game that you would be confident of winning given the respective styles of the two managers?
Definitely not. They have scored 10 goals in the last 2 matches at St. James against us. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, and it's a Postecoglou team, so we're going to eventually concede a few. So if we can score 3, I think we get all the points, but I think we concede at least 2. So I'd be happy with the point and kind of get this voodoo over with Newcastle. But obviously, I would be looking at our squad a little differently if we went there and got a convincing win. Maybe top 4 and above is not unrealistic, and should be in the conversation.
Do you think, because for me, I'm like so old at this point that I can remember in the early 90s for Liverpool, we could not beat QPR for love nor money, no matter how good our team was, although they did have Les Ferdinand at the time. And then in the mid-90s, it was Norwich. We just couldn't do anything against Norwich. Do you think there's something about Newcastle and Eddie Howe's style that maybe exposes weaknesses in Postecoglou's tactics?
I don't know if it's their style in particular. I think maybe it's the style of our system and the youth of our system going away to an environment like St. James. I think maybe that's what's doing it. I couldn't speak to it, but I just know it's there and it's real. And there's not a lot of confidence going into this match, which is unfortunate because, we have the momentum on our side. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to give Eddie Howe too much credit. So I'm not sure it's anything that he's doing specifically against us. I think it might just be the occasion going up north for Tottenham.
Is it possible, because pre-match meals have gone from, steak and chips or French fries, if you want, over here in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they're more sophisticated now. Is it possible that when Spurs go up to Newcastle and they look around St. James's Park and they see all of those fat bellies with the tattoos all over them, that they just feel like puking up their pre-match meal and that affects the performance?
That's probably it. It's the visual, it really gets to them.
It's disorienting. Let's look at Arsenal Brighton, Alan. It's at home. It should be a win. Brighton did well against United. They look a refreshed team under the new manager. It's a different style to the previous one. It's a little bit more, let's say, cerebral. It's not as defensive and tight. Are you confident? You should be confident in this, right? I'm asking an obvious question, but you should be confident in this game, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I am confident. Like I said earlier, I think this team is full of killers now, not just young boys anymore, luckily. But I think we have the mentality to put away a Brighton now. Of course, they have been playing really well. That's not to put anything away, but so have Villa. Over even last week they did play well in a loss. They played well the week before, and we were able to play play really well in that second half against them. I just think Arsenal's mentality is just too strong right now for Brighton, and this new manager is going to be put to a test and see how he comes out. But I think Arteta and the rest of the squad is just going to go out and do what they do and come out 2-0, another one.
I'm not sure, but the phrase "this team is full of killers now, not just young boys" is a phrase we want to promote as one of our clips on this show.
Yeah, that's not.
I think you need to clarify. You mean
that's true. Yeah, that's fair. That's
immaturity.
Fair.
That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Arteta might be a sociopathic-looking Lego head, but I don't think he's into murder quite yet. That might come when the referees and the VAR start making their terribly bad decisions that they tend to do.
He will steal your wallet, though. He
will steal your wallet. Shay, another regional of a type, another regional derby, so to speak. Villa, that Black Country Midlands kind of area has a lot of them. But Leicester away. It's Steve Cooper's Leicester now. It's not that fancy Leicester of Brendan Rodgers in the Premier League or Maresca in the Championship. It's a little bit more earthy and a little bit more British, so to speak. Would you be confident in this game? Is there a derby layer to this the way there usually is, or is Leicester just too far removed from that in the way that West Brom and Wolves aren't for Villa? Is it just going to be another game, and is it one that you'll be confident coming away with a win?
It's a little nervous just because, like I said last week, Jamie Vardy still got it, so he's always just going to be that wild card. And these guys haven't played him in like 2 years, and I feel like he's going to come out after halftime, chug 2 Red Bulls, do whatever he does, his halftime ritual, and just going to be like a man possessed trying to score. Definitely confident that we should win. I think this will start kickstarting it because I think we play Leicester and then we play Everton. So these are 2 games that we need to come back, take the points, and cement that hey, we're still in position to finish top 4. And hopefully this will be the game that Ole finally kicks off. I don't know if we'll play the whole match again, just because with Duran just kind of knocking at the door, like hey, does he deserve the start first, and then have Ole come on to finish it? We will see. That's where Unai has to make that tough decision. But I'm gonna go 2-1 to Bill. I can see Vardy just scoring. It's just gonna happen.
Do you think you should celebrate by pulling out a mini can of Red Bull from his sock where his shin guard should have been? And not only does he drink the Red Bull, but he gets red carded for it as well. That would be such a
Or like in the first 10 minutes, like pull out Red Bull, get red carded, then we're fine.
That'd be a proper on-brand Jamie Vardy thing. Let's look at the other games. See if there's anything interesting. West Ham and City. What do we think of that? Shay, do you think there's anything in that, or is that just another routine City win?
The way City are looking, I could see a City win right now. I know West Ham have a really good team they put together. It's just still early days with the new manager and the new squad. But I just think with City basically adding Gundogan, who was only a year removed at that point. I just said he went on vacation for Barca and came back. I was like, all right, Pep's got what he needs. He's not to coach anybody, so they're just going to keep on chugging along. I'm going to go City probably 3, West Ham 1. They'll get 1 goal.
Jake, Chelsea Palace, another of the West Country, the Midlands, pardon me, the Black Country, the Midlands and London with all those 7 million derbies. Is there enough there for Chelsea to be tripped up at home and to spoil Maresca's run of 1 game?
I haven't seen anything from Palace so far to say yes, but it'd be very much in Chelsea's nature to come out of this with a draw. So I wouldn't say no.
Alan, Wolves and Forest, are we looking at the relegation battle starting already here, the 6-pointers?
And Nottingham's in 7th right now, so yeah, I think so.
And they've won 2 European Cups. Let's never forget that they keep reminding us about.
Yeah, that's true. They definitely did that. Damn.
They got 2.
They got 2. You guys got 1 there, Villa.
2 in a row.
Yeah. Well,
Brentford, Southampton, Shay. That looks like a nothing burger of a game, but I like Thomas Frank. I want them to win that, and it'd be nice for him to stay in the league. If we hadn't got Arne Slot, he would have been one that I would have been interested in for Liverpool because he does play a similar style to Klopp, but with practically zero investment for Brentford. Let's be honest. Do you think his time is going to be coming up soon for Brentford and he moves on somewhere bigger?
I definitely think so. Like you said, I thought he would have been a good pickup for Liverpool. That could be a United pickup. Where I know we were talking about Flash, but he's at least proven he can handle the Premier League with zero funds in a sense, because Brentford don't ever really spend. They sell, but I haven't seen them go out and invest it. If he keeps them up this year, I think this will probably be the final year. He'll probably tell them, look, unless you invest into the club, I don't want to stay here. And not that's anything to do with the team and the fans. It's just if they're not going to support him, he's too good of a coach to sit there and kind of hey, let me just maintain. I have a feeling he will get snagged by somebody either in Europe that's looking to, hire a good coach, or somebody in England, in the top, will maybe end up doing it. But I have a feeling they'll end up winning this. Southampton doesn't look all the best right now.
No. Alan, Ipswich Town and Fulham, for our friend, our departed friend for this week.
Yes.
You don't want Fulham to win, but Ipswich didn't look terrible so far this season, did they?
No, they haven't looked terrible as they you'd think they would. They have lost, but they actually look good against United and did decent, or not United, against City, and they looked well against who they played last week?
Liverpool and City.
Yeah, they played Liverpool and City. I thought they played United.
No, they did. They looked quite decent against Liverpool. It wasn't an easy game by any stretch.
And they did score first against City, and yeah, they look well. So I mean, but they are in that relegation fight. But I still think that Fulham is gonna win. So,
Jake, last one to you because you've just beaten them. So we want to end on a positive note. Are Bournemouth going to pick up points against Everton, or are they going to be bored to death and get creaks in the neck watching the ball go over their heads for 95 minutes?
I don't know. Everton beat the mighty Doncaster today, so big win for them. But no, I think Bournemouth showed enough signs to get past this Everton team that looks inept is the best word I can use. So yeah, I like the Cherries in this one.
Also, you do want to be beating a football team that has the word "dong" in their name. To be fair, that's always vital. So with that said, that will be coming to the end of our show. I think Timuchin should be back next week from his vacation, so you guys get to put up with an arm of human for once, albeit a more opinionated one. But for everybody else, thank you for joining us. And the comments, always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on the YouTube and on the Facebook and the Instagram and that other social media platform that nobody cares about. That changes its name weekly probably. And then the Patreon, where all the good stuff is, that you get the extra goodies that we have and the extra podcasts for that. But Alan, Shay, and Jake, we wish your teams luck up to an extent as a Liverpool fan, but we hope you have pleasant games at least. And it's Labor Day weekend, so we all get to relax. I hope. I finally do. 24-hour days almost to getting a bit of time off. But the important thing is, number one, that we're all safe over the weekend, that our football teams give us joy and pleasure, and that everything get absolutely tonked for world peace. I think that's the best way to put it. But for everybody else, thank you for joining us. We will see you tomorrow. Today's Tuesday. Tomorrow morning for the coffee show, Thursday for the podcast, and then I'm sure there will be a pre and a post match for us Liverpool fans for United Liverpool on Sunday, which I will get to watch. Hurrah! There are miracles in the world. But we will join everybody then, and we will say ciao to everybody. Have a good night's rest. It's time for some trap music to end us out.
Yeah.